If you own a gymnastics facility, then you got to understand the point of what makes your gym look professional versus what makes your gym kind of look more like mom and pop and unorganized and more chaotic. And the difference comes down to how you manage your process. The more process you have that takes the customer on a journey and you follow the process and you build a business around your process and your customer journey and all the touch points, the more your business is going to look professional and it's going to be scalable. It's going to model more what you see when you see those corporate companies where everything is consistently done the same way. However, if you're in the pursuit of make everyone happy and you want every single customer to feel good, then oftentimes you're not going to live or die by your process. You're going to live or die by your customers' happiness, and therefore they will kind of be able to dictate how you behave and what you do with your process. That works only best at the highest level of consumerism, where people are willing to pay more for that customization. But to have a business model where someone is not paying what it's worth, all the time and energy and effort it takes to modify and keep a customer happy, when they're not paying for it, then that is a sure set model for burnout, essentially, because it is not sustainable over time. Also, the other problem is that if you're building a business model that is built off of your talent and your skill set, then that means that you are not replaceable. If you're not replaceable, then you are trapped in your ability to grow because you are needed in that position in order to make that process work. And so the difference, again, in business models is you either create a process that is not dependent on you, the gym owner, and anybody can do the process, and now you can fill all the roles and everyone's living and dying by the process, and then it's a position of essentially executing the process, or you're building a business that is built more on everybody's individual skill sets and talents, and you're creating a chain where once one person is removed from that chain, you have a broken link, and now you have to find someone to fill the void. The problem is that if you're building that model and you have this chain and somebody leaves and there's a weak link, chances of you finding someone who has the skill set to replace the person who left is very rare. And so oftentimes now we're replacing those links with people who are not fully qualified or do not have the skill set. And now you have a chain that is much weaker and is more susceptible to chaos and conflict and breakdown and all the other problems. This will lead to burnout eventually. Also, the problem now is you have to create this weird sense of loyalty amongst your employees because they feel obligated to stay, because if they leave, they know that your business is going to be affected by them leaving. And so now there's this weird relationship where people now sort of can start to feel taken advantage of because they're needed for the operations of the business. Versus if you build a business process, the emotional attachment the employee has to your company doesn't need to be there. It doesn't need to be taken advantage of, because if the employee decides to take time off or leave, you can easily replace them and fill the void because the process is driving the story. Now, how do you build a process? That's a challenge because most people don't have the time to build the process. They're spending all their time running their business. And so that's why building a process takes time. So you really have two options. You're either going to pour all your energy into building this process. For me personally, it took over 7 years of putting 75% of my energy and effort into building this process. I have a business partner. She did more of the operations. I did more of the coaching, but I was able to scale my coaching so that I could work on the process. It took me about 7 years to get to a point where I'm creating a self-sustainable business model. So you're either going to put in the time or you're going to buy a process that already exists. This is the idea of buying a franchise or licensing material, because the material already works, the franchise already works, and all you're doing is buying the process. And so those are really your two options. You're going to build the process or you're going to buy the process. The error I see happening in the gymnastics community, and this is why I feel like the industry is stuck, is because people are hiring coaches. They're hiring people that want to teach gymnastics, and they're hiring those people and saying, hey, build the process for me. Well, building the business model and the business process is more about an ecosystem of how all the parts and pieces work. It's not just content development. You can't just be like, okay, build some curriculum and everything's going to be fine. You got to build curriculum. You got to create employee training. You got to find a way to hold employees accountable and track their performance. You have to find a way to get employees to move up through the ranks so that there's this flow of going from a beginner coach to an intermediate coach to an advanced coach. And there has to be a system in play that keeps track of all of this so that you have this process in play so that when somebody leaves, you know exactly where they left off at, and you know exactly who you need to move up into that position, and you know how to fill the void. So That's not something that somebody who's like, I'm a team coach or I'm a rec coach and I'm going to figure all this stuff out, because chances are a lot of these people don't have control over who they hire, who they fire, and the rotation schedule, and which classes get added and which classes don't, and who's working which classes. All of that is at play, okay? And all of that determines how your business process is going to operate. The key point I want you to take away is this: if you're a gymnastics business owner, if you were to not show up to your gym for an entire month, okay, would it meet your expectations, or would it exceed your expectations, or would it not even come close to your expectations? If you were to disappear for a month and your gym was to just operate and every employee got to make decisions on their own, what would the outcome look like? If the outcome would not look like how you want it to be in a month, then chances are you do not have a process that is sustainable. You should be able to leave the business for a month and let it operate, and you should see very little to no impact. And even better would be if you could see growth. If you could actually leave your gym for a month and you could see your gym grow because your process is in play and everyone is doing their part in the process, if your gym could grow, now think about how you would be doing life differently operating your business. If you could just be like, hey, I'm not going to have to show up to work today, and I know my business is still going to grow and move forwards. That's the type of process you want to be aiming for. How you're going to get there, it's really up to you. But that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years, is developing that process, because for me, it's far more valuable to empower my employees to carry my business forwards. It gives them purpose, it makes them feel significant, it allows me to celebrate their wins, and it allows them to take some form of ownership without feeling emotionally attached, as if they were to leave, they're going to let me down. Now, when my employees leave, it's not a problem. We just fill the void, and we are excited about the next adventure for their life, and we celebrate the wins that they brought to the company, and we're excited for their next journey moving forwards. And there's no hard feelings, there's no weirdness. It's just awesome. Go to your next journey. This is just a stepping stone business, and we just move people up in the ranks because we have a process. That for me has eliminated majority of my anxiety, my burnout, my stress, my frustration in running and owning a gymnastics gym. So hopefully you find that helpful. And leave a comment below if you got questions or thoughts. I'd love to hear how you're running your business and what process you're using, or if you're running into a lot of conflict, or if you're too afraid to leave your gym, or if you have these emotional attachments to employees that if they were to leave, it would be some sort of detriment to your business. But I'd love to hear where you're at in your process. Have a good day.